I discovered another Russian bot on Twitter, and I've never seen anything like this before. Let me show you how I figured this out. This person's name is Deplorable Vet 84, and he claims to be from Texas and an Army vet of Afghanistan and Iraq and a Purple Heart recipient. The guy first came to my attention when he put out a tweet questioning how anyone could support the war in Ukraine. And he mentions, "I can't even barbecue anymore without being reminded on the smell of human flesh burning." So a couple of things are wrong with this sentence. Americans don't say cannot all that much, we say can't, so that was kind of weird. And then he says being reminded on the smell. I mean, maybe that's a typo, but I'm wondering if that's a mistranslation from Russian to English. It's just one of those things a foreigner might slip up when mentally translating. And then I realized what this person was trying to do was translate napominiat na zapaka, which means reminiscent of the smell. But in Russian, na can mean of or it can mean on. So remember, this guy said he can't barbecue anymore because he's reminded of the smell. And I'll tell you something. I've lived in Texas. I was at Fort Bliss. Ain't no Texas boy gonna give up barbecue. If you don't eat brisket, you might as well turn in your guns and buy a Prius and put up a windmill. And incidentally, I personally have picked up burned body parts, some the size of chicken McNuggets. Do I look malnourished? So then I thought, all right, well, if this guy is really from Texas, he's going to talk about football, like real football, not whatever the heck this thing is up here. But the only mention of football is showing how many football stadiums it would take to hold illegal immigrants. And I don't care what kind of point you're trying to make. No Texan would ever show a picture of the LSU or Alabama stadiums. So this dude has got to be Russian because they don't know how passionate Texans are about football and how much LSU and Alabama are hated. So my suspicions were aroused. Now, I use this tool called Cyabra, which is able to inspect different social media accounts, social threat detection software. Some of you know I do occasional consulting for a company called Velocity. Velocity is a private intelligence agency. It's like Archer, but without the kinetic component. Yet. And they do intelligence research for the government and for private companies. I can tell you this, if you're a company and you haven't had a counterintelligence audit done, you're putting yourself at risk of insider threats and outside cyber attacks, so you might want to close that loop with Velocity. Anyway, Velocity uses a tool called Cyabra for their social threat detection. So I fired up Cyabra and I added deployable Vet 84 to their search tool. And here's what's interesting. This is a bot that behaves like a sophist. I've never seen that before. As you can see, this person is a 100% negative spreader, meaning every single thing this person says spreads negative sentiment. Every single thing. And their tweet output is prolific, to say the least. But look at profiles and activity. This person spends all day on Twitter. It's like literally their job to be on Twitter. Now, the time here is in UTC, so I converted it to Texas time. And this person started tweeting at 11 p.m. at night. You're starting your day of tweeting at 11 p.m. at night. Now, this might be indicative of someone who has a job in IT, or maybe they're an overnight janitor or something like that, or maybe a hospital worker that works overnight. But the amount of tweets being put out, so we're talking about like 6 to 7, 8 tweets an hour, it's just not indicative of someone who is doing a job that would be doing a night job. So if you run the time backwards, you see the person starting at 7 a.m. St. Petersburg time, and they usually end at around 3 a.m. So I'm thinking here that this is a team effort. There's basically 2 people who are working this account, with maybe a shift change at around 6 p.m. so the night shift can take over. I haven't analyzed the text patterns to try to identify which person on the team is writing which posts, but you could do that with a Python script. It's trivial, and I don't have the time to do this right now. So in conclusion, this particular user, Deployable Vet 84, is 100% a Russian disinformation asset. If you've subscribed to this asset, if you retweet stuff from this asset, you are being lied to and manipulated intentionally by Russia. Now, all that being said, independent journalism isn't cheap. I'm headed to Fort Campbell to do an air assault with the 101st Airborne and write a story about it. and I'm paying for it out of my own pocket. I'm headed there this Wednesday, so if you could toss me $5 on Substack or buy a t-shirt like my Department of the Boat People Navy t-shirt, I'd really appreciate it. It all goes to fund the channel and me doing this kind of investigative journalism. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Mr. President? Yeah, that's me. I'm the president, man. Hey, little tugboat, did someone drop your anchor? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, Mr. President. Well, it's not like you got some girl in bed with you to wake up. Listen, you freaking nerd, I've got a problem. It's my vice principal, man. You're who? Come on, man. Camilla. Miss Harris, if you're nasty. She's got a Nerf Day coming up, man. I gotta get her a presentation. Well, Mr. President, how about a Ryan McBeth t-shirt from Bunker Branding? I've got Think Outside the Bomb, Live, Laugh, Launch, Repatriate, N for HIMARS, Department of the Boat People, Landmine marker shirts, and even Hell on a Wire. A lot of these come in hoodies and stickers as well. Yeah, I'll get a Ryan McBeth t-shirt from Bunker Branding. McBeth, you saved the reputation of the Tight House. Not the Tight House, the Tight House. The building, man, with the Rose Garden. Get with the program, man. Happy to help, Mr. President. And be sure to get yours at bunkerbranding.com.